What's going on, everybody? This is Brendan Hauser with EVOQ Bike. So welcome to Bike Radio. If you are new to the channel and maybe this is your first video with EVOQ Bike, we sort of have three different silos of types of videos going on. You may have seen the interviews with World Tour pros, Olympians, absolutely amazing athletes, as well as other professional coaches, nutritionists, etc., all that drop a ton of gems that can help us get faster. Or you may have come in the silo where it's those shorter 8 to 15 minute videos on one topic. Over-unders, how to ride endurance correctly, what's base miles, what are VO2 max intervals that we like. There's those ones, and then there's this, Bike Radio. It's more of a variety show. The shows are actually getting a little bit longer as it's been requested from athletes. They're like, hey, it seems like you have a lot of these topics. Why don't you just make a 45-minute episode? And I didn't think that was necessarily appealing to people, but if people enjoy it, that's great. But at the same time, you might be in more of a rush. So use the chapters down below. If you're like, hey, I've got 10 minutes, what topics can I get from this? And I'm going to be out the door. We want to get as much information to you to help you get faster in whatever time you have. So, bunch of topics today. Number one, I want to talk about when I feel like we get sucked into going hard, but it actually does not make us any faster. Number two, I apologize. I had mentioned macro tracking back in the Salisbury circuit race video, and this came up as I was traveling from New York back down to North Carolina, and I stopped in Virginia to do the Masters State Crit and the P12 Crit, and in Delaware to do the Salisbury P12 circuit race and then the Masters circuit race. Number three, probably the most important thing in this video is an exchange I had with an athlete when we're talking about fatigue and almost looking at life TSS and stress and how it can be very easy to forget of all the things going on in your life off of the bike can have a massive impact on the bike. And while that sounds very basic, I myself have had a struggle with the nuance, especially when I was self-coached. So I just want to bring this topic to light to get you thinking about it in case you find yourself in that scenario, and hopefully that would help you out. Number four, a really unique situation, I think, but not unique to this athlete. Unique's the wrong word. This athlete's a Cat 4, and he has access to a group ride with really strong Cat 1s, people in the NCL Crit League, people that are doing the pro road races, absolute rippers. And we were talking about how he's executing when he's lighting his matches. And I just want to throw this scenario out there because I think we can all get a little bit faster from this one and how we conserve energy. Number five, why you should upgrade from Cat 4 to Cat 3 ASAP. This is actually probably important too. I think you're going to learn a lot. This is definitely not something that everybody agrees with, but I will explain why I feel that way. Then we're going to go what sounds like 101, talking about average watts on your bike ride, how looking at just average watts can be very misleading. And then I want to get into Winston-Salem Masters Crit that I did. There's no way in hell I was doubling up and doing the pro race, and I'll explain why. And then the Boone Gran Fondo, and then also I'm going to be going to the Gran Fondo Nationals in Maryland. We'll talk about that at the very end. So let's dive into this. And I'm also thinking I want to get a host or a co-host. Or maybe we'll call them the host and I'll be the co-host. Me and Tom are going to be doing some mountain bike stuff and gravel videos. And I need to get Landry back on, especially as we get into strength season. He's been really helping me dial in what I'm doing in the gym or what I'm not doing in the gym so much to stay fresh enough to ride. So going hard enough, number one, to actually make meaningful change. I think that's the main point of this segment is there are so many times when athletes will just quote unquote check in on their fitness. And Patchy Vila from Movistar, who was on the podcast, talked about this, how it's tempting to you're out, you're doing an endurance ride, you feel good, and you're like, let me just do this little threshold effort. Let me just do this little 3-minute effort. Maybe, how's my 5-minute? Let me just do this. Save that. And I realize in the micro, is one effort really going to like change the whole idea of the ride? Or is it going to, oh no, now you've activated your glycolytic system? Is the whole endurance ride ruined? I personally don't believe that. I think our bodies are smart enough to understand, hey, you just rode 2 hours in endurance. One effort's not going to kill it, but it starts a really bad habit. And I don't know why, but I was very religious when I first started training under Jason. When he said go ride zone 2 and don't go above zone 3, I never hit zone 4. For months at a time, we did mega base the old school way, and it was zone 1 and zone 2. And even who was on recently on the podcast that was talking about this, like, man, I love the time of year when I get to start riding in zone 2. Too many times people just go on these pointless little rips that does add up, I think, in fatigue over time. And that does do something negative. And this is very bro science, but it's also, I think, a mental aspect. Like, save that hunger when you don't do it. When the really hard day comes, you're really hungry for it. At age 41, I set a 8-minute lifetime PR because I was super hungry to go do this VO2 max workout. And part of the workout was getting to select whether I was going 4 through 8 minutes. And there was a KOM that I never thought I would get from Johnny Crane. And when I mentioned that name to people around, who were like, dude, Johnny, yeah, that dude is hella fast. He would visit from up here, I believe, and then just like steal all these KOMs. Never would have thought I'd get it from him. And it was just one of those days where the chain was just, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to rip this thing apart. Had I just been doing these little dabby, crappy efforts that don't mean anything, I promise you, I would have been 10 watts less, 5 watts less. I took it by like 5 seconds. I wouldn't have gotten it. Those things add up. I would say save it for the big day. Number 2, macro tracking. So I've always said, I actually haven't always said, there was a point in time when I was trying to understand a lot more about nutrition. And this is probably back when I first started riding. Second season, 2010. I didn't understand carbs, fats, proteins. I had no knowledge of nutrition and how to eat properly. And I definitely did not have any insight on portion control, or not even control, portion size. What did that piece of chicken mean in terms of macros? So I think counting calories, or I prefer food journaling, or counting calories just sounds negative. It has a bad connotation. Doing that is very educational. If you don't know what your food contains, how are you knowing if you're carb loading? How do you know if you're eating enough protein? And I think just getting those markers for yourself without being a psycho about it, which is a problem that I would fall into, is really a good exercise to go through. Download MyFitnessPal, start to log stuff. It sounds like a pain in the butt, but once it just becomes a habit, it's pretty easy. Here are my tips though. As I said, don't be a psycho about it. If you are having to weigh everything, I think weighing food is actually very educational. But if it becomes like, oh wait, before you put that in the salad, I need to weigh that lettuce. I need to weigh that thing, this, that, whatever. There's going to be times where you just need to let go. And we're very driven. A lot of us are A-type. Just don't go overboard with it. And because then it's not going to be sustainable. Focus on the carbs. I think the protein you're going to get, maybe not. But for the carbs, this all started because in Salisbury, I was eating too much. I just knew I was eating too much. I was texting Will about eating cereals, and Tyler Stites said my bag of Dino Bites was too small. And I was like, I'm going to eat all these Dino Bites. It's just like, I need to just get a better grasp on it because I'm eating so much because I'm a big dude. And I had no idea. Was I at 700 grams or was I at 1,000? A big bowl of cereal is 100. But did I eat? What about that bread? And you're in the car and you're like kind of munching and snacking. I was like, I'm going to just go back in on this and do this again. So the thing is, don't eat to the app also. If you look at your total calories, it's going to be very hard to dial in your actual metabolic number each day. You're probably burning less on the day after a rest day, and you're probably burning more in the morning on the rest day after a long ride. And if you're doing 2 rides back to back, you're probably burning even more. So like if I'm at a 2,800 calorie a day, maybe some days it's 2,600, maybe some days it's 3,100. If I'm eating like, I got to eat 700 more calories, I think that's foolish. So don't eat to the app's numbers. Simply monitor and track your macros. Did I get enough carbs for what I'm doing tomorrow? Did I get enough protein for what I did today? Great. Use it as a guideline. And when you go out to dinner, don't be psycho. If you go to a friend's house, hey, how much olive oil did you use 4 teaspoons or 6? And then I probably ate 1/7 of that salad. So divide by, don't do that. That's crazy. In my opinion, maybe you want to do it. I don't know. That doesn't sound sustainable to me. And I think, the end all goal or the end all litmus test you can do, don't lose power doing this. Look at yourself in the mirror. And if you're not ripped, take off 100 calories a day. Do it over the long period of time. I posted a video on Instagram, kind of a funny video from that guy Waxin, who just does funny videos. And people were like, dude, you are shredded. What are you doing? And that's not a humble brag. I was never shredded. It's just paying attention to what I eat and eating when I'm hungry. And sometimes the app says I need to eat 500 more calories and I don't do it. And sometimes the app says negative 300. I'm like, oh my God, I just screwed everything up. Don't be crazy about it, okay? Getting shredded doesn't have to be impossible. You just have to want it. And eat healthy, clean foods. And the last thing, aside from macro tracking, don't eat weird stuff that you don't know what it is. There's cereal that has, sodium triphosphate. That's a cleaning chemical. Don't eat that. Why is it in cereal? That's weird. Okay. Athlete who I had noticed was kind of saying he was tired, and he uses the word fried, which like really scares me when people say that. And I was like, hey man, look at my comments from a few days ago. I think we're definitely hitting it too hard, whether it's in some aspect, whether it's the duration of the workouts. And he's, to clarify, this video I'm recording in August, he's more preparing, building up for next season. We're doing a bunch of training now, going to do a base, and then he's racing next year. He's coming back from some life things, and so he's not racing right now. So I said, but we're either screwing up the duration, we're screwing up the intensity, we're mixing in too much lifting, or we're lifting too much, so kind of into the intensity. Let's course correct this. So he had also made a comment that he was really sore, and it was either the day after or 2 days after. But that, if you're that sore from lifting and we're trying to do intervals before going into base, that massively increases fatigue, and we should dial that back because you're ruining your on the bike performance. We are cyclists first, and then lifting to be ancillary to that. So here's what was very interesting in his reply back. He said, I've definitely been overdoing it on a few occasions on my easy days. Red flag, and that definitely doesn't help. It doesn't not help, it hurts big time. But when I sleep a lot, it seems to be that I handle it a little bit better, of course. We can fine tune this, and next week was a rest week, so I thought some fatigue would be expected. This has been really helpful though so far to go through all of this. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, I don't want to be so fried that I don't enjoy it anymore, or I'm borderline being sick. That is a huge red flag. I don't really feel like you should ever be fried. Fried to me is trained way too much. Just, you're like, don't want to get on the bike. You look at the bike and you're like, no. That's too much because your body's not absorbing that as a stimulus saying, hey, you should probably get a little bit stronger in case this athlete does this again. That's 911, someone help me. I need a gurney. Pull me out of this, carry me around. That's too much. That's too hard. And then the gem that was really important. Also, some of this is personal life stuff. I'm supposed to be an empty nester as of 2 weeks ago, but an adult child has moved back in, and this has been quite, quote unquote, challenging. So there's been actually a lack of sleep and other things going on. I'm definitely going to get that figured out soon, and we'll chat. So that's huge. Life is creating a ton of TSS and stress, and it's, there's some positives, I'm sure, from the child being back, but it's not what was expected. That's going to affect on the bike. We definitely need to be dialing back the rides a little bit so he can still lift, take some lifts away, maybe take an interval session away. We need to do something so that you can manage this. Don't be fried. Don't train too much. It's all about finding the right dose. I feel like if I had to be like, hey man, good job, for myself with athletes, I feel like that's something I'm good at because I've trained a ton. I've trained way too much. I've trained not enough. I've trained the wrong things. I've made a lot of mistakes training with coaches and by being self-coached. And I think that helps me as a coach. It's something I struggle with in doing as a self-coach athlete, which is why I'm just not going to do that ever again, as I've failed it twice now. And this is a way to look at, get a training buddy if you cannot get a coach. It's how many athletes have we had on that are incredible athletes on the podcast that talk about their coach and their relationship with their coach and what they get from their coach. Okay. Number 4, and sorry if that comes across as like a coach shill. I try to tread lightly with that, but it is a coaching company that we are a part of, so I don't know. Take it how you want to take it. Number 4, conserve your efforts towards the end of the group ride if you're not able to get through the group ride, if you're not able to get to the end. And in talking to this athlete, the athletes that he's going up against, I was sort of reading it as he was putting out good watts, but still getting dropped. And then in talking, he's like, well, I'm kind of going full gas on this. There's 3 hot zones. I'm going full gas on this one, so I'm pretty blasted at the end. And I know This athlete tends to do too much work. The strategy is still working on there, but there are fast people there. You want to show that you're strong. You get on the front. You take pulls that are too hard. Then you're gassed. And when the hitters go, there's no way you're going to match that. So I had said, let's totally flip this. Don't go for the first one. Don't go for the second one. Ride with your peers. Let the fast people go. They all regroup. Number 3, I want you to empty the tank on this one. So number 1, this is usually the last, and I could be wrong here, from all the group rides that I've done, I'm trying to think through very quickly, and I've thought about it. The last KOM, the last finish line, the last sprint line, anything is usually the most important. And also, it's the recency effect. It's the one we all remember last. Everyone is going full blast on that. Everyone is trying to win that one. This will give you the real litmus of where do you stack up against these much faster people, but also where do you falter? What is the hardest part? Where are you getting dropped if you get unhitched? And it's not because you've just done too much work on the first 2. Are you totally blown out the back? Well, then maybe you need to go back to the middle one and try that where people are trying harder. Like, just figure out where can you conserve more. Once you get through that last one, then you go back and, okay, now let me do 2 and 3. Then you get through both of those, and you go do 1, 2, and 3. And you're going to get faster through this process. And also, the other things, aside from watts, when you start finishing with the big dogs start to notice. And then they might let you in a little bit easier. And these little things, when everyone is going, I'm trying to think of a different word for ape poop. When everyone's going nuts, saving a little bit in little small places when they let you in because now you're finishing with them matters. And then you finish with them and they're talking about this ride they're going on next weekend and you get invited. And now you're riding with faster people on your endurance rides and learning from them and seeing what they do. And if you are in a city or I shouldn't even say a city, if you are in an area where there's faster people and you're not trying to get mentored by them, I think you're missing out big time. That's a huge shout out Genesee Valley Cycling Club. You guys come up in so many of these. That is a huge piece to getting faster. I remember Mike Minerva taking me down to Bristol, and shout out to Annie Litwinick. Those guys were just riding away from me, and I was like, okay, what do I need to do to get faster? Andy's a big dude. What is this guy doing? What is Mike doing? And then you finish a ride with them and they're like, oh, you should ride with this person. Oh, you should talk to this person. Like, your web needs to expand. That's the whole reason we have the Discord. The Discord is getting bigger and bigger. There's now over like 630 people in it. Join the Discord, talk to some people, put yourself out there. And I think even if you're shy, go and read through some of the threads, read what people are talking about, read how they look at training. It's definitely not just littered with EVOQ coaches. We are in there, but there's a lot of really smart people sharing their insights. And there's a huge part of getting faster is getting from other people. Number 5, upgrade. And I think, I know other coaches don't always agree with this. I'm a very upgrade fast type promoter. I think you just learn so much more. And this is not a diss on Cat 4s, but everyone has probably heard the Cat 4 blob, especially in a crit. The Cat 4 group rides together a lot. Someone tries to attack and they all chase them down. No one counters attacks. And it's not really racing. And I'm sorry to say, I don't mean to knock Cat 4s. I was a Cat 4 once too. I understand that. A lot of people don't know how to race yet, and they don't have someone helping them to you should attack and you should, oh, hey, that guy attacked. These guys are going to chase him down, and then you counterattack because those guys can't go right away. And then there's also, most people are new, so our brains were like, I'm probably not strong enough. I shouldn't do this. I'm going to doubt myself. You should upgrade to Cat 3 because, number 1, racing better people versus just the blob that chases everything back is going to make you smarter, and you will get faster from that. There's more tactics, so you're going to learn a lot more. And while the race might seem really fast in a Cat 3-4 race versus a 4-5 race, that will slow down. Your brain will start to recognize patterns and what's going on. It's speed chess. There's a lot going on. And a Cat 4 said to me after I said this last time in a video, he's like, dude, I would be in way too deep. Here's the deal. Maybe my answer would be different 7 years ago when getting a Cat 1 was very difficult. And this is me. I'm old, and I remember back in my day when you had to do it all in 12 months. I think you have 36 months to get your points for Cat 1. That's absolutely insane and crazy. I understand why they're doing it. They want more racers to upgrade and move through the process and blah, 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 blah. That's just kind of how life is now. But to get a Cat 3, which used to be 20 points in 12 months, was not easy. And now you just have to do 20 races. You have to have 20 pack finishes to be a Cat 3. So guess what? There are a lot of Cat 3s who are, say it with me, Cat 4s. They've just done a bunch of races and they're like, oh, sweet, I'm going to upgrade. So you're not, and I don't, this isn't a knock. Get upgraded. This is great because then now you can go do 1, 2 races, 1, 2, 3 races, and you can see how much more work you have to do because Cat 3s come in and it's really fast. And I remember my head just spinning. You learn a lot. And so I'm upgrade. Just keep going. Who cares? Like, let's go. Go do an open gravel race. I think it's just motivating. So here's the thing. Someone said I'm going to be in too deep because Cat 3 is just way, way faster. I don't think so. If you have the desire to upgrade, you're going to be with other athletes who have the desire to upgrade as well. And that's a positive thing. I'm not knocking Cat 3s, Cat 4s, anybody. I want people to believe in themselves and go struggle. And then you ask questions and you have to engage with people at the race. And you might say, I keep getting shelled. And someone, if you put yourself out there, say, I suck right now. What the hell is going on? I guarantee you someone's like, yo, dude, every time at X, Y, and Z, you're doing this, do this. That is mega. That's how we all learn and get faster. Go learn from other people because people are seeing all the dumb things that you can't see yourself doing. I'm literally asking Will Harden now, and Landry the other day was like, dude, when you descend around this corner, you're locking your arms out. Why are you doing that? And I didn't even realize, it's like, dude, that little change. I feel like I've been riding a bike a long time. I'm still open and trying to find ways to get faster so I can try to keep getting better. I mean, I'm not going, just keep going. All right, before we get into the races, number 6, talking to an athlete about endurance rides, he always rides a little bit too hard. He always doing a little bit of tempo. And so he said, yeah, but my average watts are right at 250, which is below I think it's the top end of his zone. No. Let's just use this as an example. Say the top end of zone 2 is 270. He was riding at 250. He said, but am I in the zone? And I'm like, but did you look at how you got that 250? You could technically ride 500 and 0 for the ride and get 250. That wouldn't be an endurance ride. And obviously that's at the extreme of this. But he's like, well, wait a minute. Looking at the zone, what do you mean? And I was like, you were 40% endurance, 40% tempo. Like you're riding just a little, and it's not like crazy hard, but you're riding a lot of tempo in this ride. It's a lot of low tempo, but it's still tempo. And look at your heart rate. You're at 80% heart rate max for a lot of it when you start just gassing it. Stop doing that. Ride less. Do more to gain more, right? Ride a little bit easier to reap even more aerobic benefit with less fatigue. And this was something I had wrong for a long time before I really started thinking about the training even more. And I definitely rode probably too hard for the first 4 or 5 years. I was trying to always go to the top of the zone. You don't have to do that. Okay. Winston-Salem, where are we at with time here? Okay, 23 minutes. Winston-Salem Masters Crit. The Pro Crit is beyond my capabilities. Someone asked me, I said, you've been doubling up on crits. Why didn't you do this one? There's a very big difference between a local or even regional crit with 40 guys and a pro crit like Winston-Salem where first prize is, what were they giving away? 11,000 that weekend. So it's like 20 deep. You could still get 20, I think, at like over $100, which sounds hilarious. But in our sport, that's a lot of money. First prize was $1,000, maybe. A lot of really fast people. The cornering is going to be very fast. That's not my strong suit. It's the climb is good for me. Against those guys, maybe not so much. But it's just the race at the level where I guess I'm just uncomfortable with that now. If it was a road race, I'd be there for sure. Just my bike handling is probably not up to snuff, and I don't love going fast like that. So just it's better for me not to be there. And I'm going to do the Masters Crit. Go race people my age. It was 35 plus. I'm 41. Let's go. Here's the only thing that I want to highlight. When there's a climb, that is something, I had no teammates. So that is something that you can use as a teammate. And I say that in number one, the race was only 35 minutes. It got shortened from 40 minutes, which is still short. If you're going into a race of that duration, what is this? It's a really hard interval session, right? It's gonna be doing like a ton of 40-20s. It's gonna be like 5x5s with very little rest in between and like a seventh one of them. It's obviously not 5 minutes straight of VO2 max power, but you get what I'm saying. So I'm thinking I'm going to roll the dice early and attack early, leaving something in reserve so when I get countered and like it spices up, I'm not dead. But this should be looked at as a hard interval set, and we need to be at the line thinking, okay, this is going to be a hard 35 minutes. The interesting thing, we start on an uphill. So I gas it just from the start line, and I want to get into the first corner. I just want to like get flowing with the race. You come down the backside, you come under the over that you just went above, which is kind of cool. It comes down around, it makes a figure eight, and then you're up on the climb again. So it's like down and up and down and up. Interestingly, so as I come down, a couple guys attack over me onto the flat. I was really about to turn down, and people start going hard. I think on the second lap, I'm like, this is interesting. They realize we're about to go up a climb, right? People were going hard well before the climb, which maybe they thought they were going to get away there. I don't know. I think this is a big mistake because then I smashed it on the climb, figuring more people would come with me. A guy came with me. He fell off. I'm trying to use this as my teammate. I know some of these guys can't stick around. So like there's a bunch of teams that have, even if they just have 2 or 3 guys, 2 or 3 people versus one, they're most likely going to be able to out attack me and win. I want to be on the forefront of this and be aggressive with it. Use an incline like that to put pressure on other people, and it might not work out. They might match all your moves and 2 guys still get with you and then they beat you up later, but that shredded some people, and that you got to use that to your benefit. I wasn't going to stick around and like think, oh, I'm going to wait 15 minutes. There's only 20 minutes left in the race then. Everyone's going to go hard the last 15 minutes. So sometimes I think you need to roll the dice, be willing to lose, be willing to maybe blow yourself up a little bit, but it actually ended up working. I got off the front and never looked back. And I think that eventually down the road, as I got tired, I still tried to stay pretty on the gas up the climb. Good training also. But I could have gone a little bit easier had I been falling apart. But again, it's only 35 minutes. So like, what are you waiting for? Boone Gran Fondo. If you are doing a Gran Fondo with time segments, I have one mega tip for you. If you want to win, which is something that Landry and I had discussed before, you need to ride with the fastest people, period. You need to play the game because you need to be able to time trial with these other people at max pace when they're all in. And this is something that we proved last time when Gran Fondo Nats was in Asheville. Myself, Patrick Wally, Ralph. God, who's the other dude's name? We went off the front early because people were going to like go really slow in between these segments. Chris was there and Asako, Patrick's wife, was there. And I said, dude, we're going to be out here for like 6 hours if we just dilly around. Let's just try and rip this. Well, these 2 other guys came with us. And even on segments where there was a long flat section and then the climb, I told these guys, I'm like, if we all commit to this and we go full gas, I promise you we're going to ride just as fast, if not faster, than the big group, because they're going to be going like 90, 95%. We're going to be going 100 because we're all committed. If you're in a group of 10, 20 people, like you don't want to be on the front pulling too hard because this guy's resting and then he's going to crush you on the climb at the end. So you need to go and TT with someone that's going to go all in with you. The KBS boys came out, Liam Flanagan, Spencer Miller, sorry the other guys, I can't remember your names off the top of my head. They lit it up on the first climb. I was like, okay, these guys are here to hammer. And they were leading Liam out a little bit. Like they just got the group going really fast up the first one. The first guy pulls as long as he can, gets to the climb, he kind of blows. We get over this hump. Liam takes off. Liam throws like a long bomb, and I'm like, dude, I don't think I can maintain that. I'm not going with him. Thought we could pull him back towards the end, and I think Liam I'd have to look. It was less than 10 seconds on me that time. I came in second. I'm like, okay, this is going to be interesting because these guys are definitely going to be crushing the rest of the segments, and they did. We stayed close. It ended up being me, Landry, Nick, shout out to Nick, and who else? God, dude, I'm sorry. He came in third overall. I got to look up his name again. And then Paul, who's a ripper from the Boone area, mountain biker, young kid, shreds. We didn't all work together strongly enough until the climbs. And so on the second one, man, I've lost track of these now. On one, Paul absolutely beasted the top portion. I was hanging onto Paul's wheel, and he got away with maybe, I suck at distance, 500K? I don't know. He put like 5 seconds into me on that climb. And so we get to the last one, and I'm behind. Whenever I was in fourth in rotation or fifth in rotation, I was like super coasting. I'm like, there's no way we're keeping up with the KBS guys right now. And so I ended up coming in fourth. Overall, I won my age group of 35 to 44. But when we were in the last one, I'm thinking there's no possible way. Ended up 2 minutes and 40 seconds down from Liam, and they put over a minute and a half on us in just the last one. So we had finished that one, and someone's like, how do you think we did? I think we're like doing well. I'm like, dude, there's no way. We're probably not on the podium. And so kudos to the KBS guys. They ripped that. They took first and second. And then, dude, I'm really sorry I'm blanking on your name. And I rode with you all day. It was one of those days. He came in third. I came in fourth. I think Landry and Nick and somebody else were fifth, sixth, and seventh. Super fun. I'm going to go to Gran Fondo Nationals again in Maryland. We'll see how that goes. I have Masters Nats coming up in Georgia. Got some family things going on that I might be off the bike for a few days after that. I don't know, we'll see how that affects fitness. I'd only have like 10 days then until Gran Fondo Nats, but I really want to go. So this is one of those times where you need to not, this is me telling myself this, so don't be over paranoid about the fitness. Go with what you have. Go have fun. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I guess I will leave a tip with this. It sort of annoys me sometimes when athletes will then, after an event, say, oh, well, I didn't get my training wasn't perfect, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, It kind of takes away from the person that has won. So I shouldn't really even say this in this podcast because it does come across now that I'm verbalizing it like, dude, you're making an excuse before you've even gone. So I apologize for doing that. Lesson learned. I'm going to be at Gran Fondo Nats. I'm going to be ready to rip. Let's just say it that way. Let's not make excuses for ourselves. No one's training is ever perfect. We need to be nimble. And actually, in talking through that, I feel way better about the situation. So who knows? Maybe I'll take 5 days off and I'm still going to run and gun. Let's go. So if you're coming to Gran Fondo Nats, say what's up. Hit me up. Maybe we can try, who knows? See, I'm going to be like, we should all get together, but it might be hard because I don't know when I'm traveling up there. But if you're at the event, let's try and shred. And hopefully this helps. If this episode was helpful to you, please leave a comment. Please share it with a friend. Please subscribe. If you're listening on Apple, please leave a positive 5-star review. And Spotify, give us a follow. Hit us up if you need help with any of your cycling, training, racing needs. Let's go.